Welcome to the A100 podcast. I'm Colleen Gallagher and I'm joined by my co-host Megan Henning, and this is our last A100 podcast of the year.
Woohoo!
Yes, it's been an exciting first year taking over the A100. And we thought today we'd kind of do a little reflection on the past year and share some of the really cool projects that some of our clients worked on, and then look ahead and talk about some trends we're expecting in the comms and PR world in 2023. So Megan, I'll kick it over to you to talk about one of the favorite things that we worked on this year.
Well, I think one of the favorite things that I had was our client TIA's rebrand and launch. Just because it's been a long time since I've really been a part of that. And I loved that you get to dig down so deep, like you're talking about the colors and what do the colors signify. And so they had changed their brand to incorporate green, which is growth and renewal. And so I loved that. And then so much, within the logo, they changed it to have motion, and that is completely visible, which is so perfect for the Transportation Intermediaries Association. So I just absolutely loved that project.
Yeah, I agree. And it is amazing to dive into all the details behind that, because you get used to just seeing the logos.
Right.
And they lose their meaning sometimes when you just
really
go. And it was such a thoughtful rebrand that they executed. And we really just stepped in at the end to help them put it out there, which was, fun and easy for us. But it was cool to understand their process and talk with their designer and learn about what they did. And then help them, create a toolkit to have their members share it and come up with different ways to turn it into a news story, because doing a rebrand itself in and of itself isn't necessarily a news story, but tying it to trends and them being, the leader for the industry. It was very fun to work on.
It was fun. Yeah, I really liked that. How about you?
So one of mine was the Tennessee Concrete Association.
Oh, yeah.
And we did a workforce campaign with them, which was totally unique and just so pertinent to what's going on right now. So like most of our clients, their members are having trouble with recruitment and retention. I mean, every industry, everybody.
Yes, everybody.
It's not just associations, it's not just specific industries, it's the topic of life right now. And they tackled it head on, and they did a really cool campaign where they tried to tell the story, and it's still ongoing and they're doing more, going forward, but they captured some video that we worked on with them to tell the story of why it's great to work in concrete, and help get that out there, and that there's good salaries and good benefits, and that it's a good job to have. And then also added a paid campaign element to it,
which is so
over
cool.
Facebook, which was really cool. And what they did was they created a landing page we worked with them to build that had any of their members that had jobs. They had a link to their jobs page.
Which is great. And I think that one of the things that I loved about that campaign too was the fact that they were talking and telling people the benefits of that, of what it is like to work in there. Because sometimes people don't know.
I know.
I mean, you don't know that there are benefits, and you might think, oh, there are no benefits. And there were a ton of benefits to working there. So I thought that was great.
Yeah, and just that it's a career too, and not necessarily just a job. I think that's a story a lot of people don't understand about so many industries. And they're doing a good job of getting that narrative out there. And they have even more cool plans for the year ahead to focus on that. So
it'll be exciting to watch that. Yeah, that's great.
So let's shift gears to another TCA.
Yes, another TCA. They have...
and this is the Truckload Carriers Association.
Yes, association. So they have something called a Highway Angel project. And I feel like this is such a fun project because it's something good. It's really positive. So the way that you can become a Highway Angel is you are doing some good. If there is an accident on the side of the road, a truck driver can pull over. And I mean, we have had truck drivers pulling, drivers from a fiery car. I mean,
the stories are incredible that we hear.
It's amazing. And it's amazing that they're able to recognize these people and spotlight them, because they deserve to be spotlighted. And it has just been such a fun project because it's such good news.
I know, and good news is so rare.
Yes,
so
it is.
It's nice to get to work on it, and they've gotten highlighted on News Nation, which is a new national streaming broadcast service, which was really cool. They're on the Good News Network. They get tons of local coverage. Basically, we reach out to the local markets where the driver lives and works,
which
whenever
is so
this
fun
happens.
for them,
and
too,
it's just great to
be
see
spotlighted in their community.
Exactly, great to see good people get good coverage.
Yes, so it's been a fun project.
Yeah. One of the other ones that's on my list of favorites has been a year-long campaign that we've been working on with the American Association for Marriage and Family Therapy.
Yes.
And this has been really unique. I think it was such a cool idea for them to prioritize this and want to run a campaign around it, but they have an academic journal, the Journal of Marital and Family Therapy, and they do a special decade in review issue every 10 years, and this is the fourth.
Amazing. Wow.
So they've been doing this for 40 years, which is wild.
Yes.
And it looks back at the last 10 years of research into marriage and family therapy and assesses the effectiveness of various treatments for a whole list of different, mental health issues and illnesses.
Which must be so helpful to all of these like therapists and people in this field to be able to say such and such is working so well.
Right.
So, being able to keep up on that, because I would assume, especially coming out of a pandemic, that they need to be armed with sort of the best research that they can have.
Absolutely. And the fact that they had the foresight to invest in this promotion campaign. So they made it free to everyone, not just members, for a full year. So anyone could access this issue. And then we really worked with them on every and any way we could raise awareness for it. And it was so fun to try out different techniques. We did some paid digital around it, which really helped get the issue out in front of people that work in the profession. We did a video series. We did press outreach. So we were just able to do so many different things. The list goes on from there. We're short on time today, so I won't dive all the way into it. But it was just probably one of my favorite things that I've ever worked on, and they were a great group to get to work with too.
Yes,
so,
awesome.
All in all, just cool to see the results of that campaign. And there's a lot of measurable metrics from it too that showcase, how well it did and how many people got eyeballs on that.
Which is just amazing.
Journal
that in and of itself. Yeah.
Yeah. So lots of good stuff. I wish we could highlight everyone, but like I said, Meg and I have lunch to get to today. So we've got a time crunch. So we're going to shift gears a little here.
Yeah.
Let's talk about what's coming on the comms and marketing front in 2023. And I wanted to start, before we get into like trends, I wanted to talk about an article we were both reading last week where GE bought out an entire New York Times print paper in historic first. They bought all their digital ads, podcasts, everything for a day.
Which is amazing because they're shifting their company into three places, into three sections, and they needed to get that message out. And I loved it because their advertising became news. And doing that was just so creative. I would really like to know how much they spent.
I know.
Because I cannot even imagine taking over the New York Times in all of its sort of ways. It's, it's podcast and it's sponsorship of different newsletters. It's just kind of an amazing opportunity. And it must have been so cool to work on something like that, to be able to plan out, what that would look like.
When I think I saw that people from GE got to go watch the printing of papers. How cool.
I mean such a cool
once in a lifetime experience.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Clearly this is limited to companies with massive budgets.
Yes.
But I'll be fascinated to see if anyone follows suit and does something similar.
I do too. And one of the quotes in the article I thought was really interesting was from the New York Times marketing person that said people are moving away from these just one ads, which even in, a paper like the New York Times would be so expensive, but that they're looking, for a more holistic brand marketing, and they're helping their clients do that, which is pretty cool, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. As we were doing some research for this podcast, we were reading a bunch of different articles. There was one that stood out, and it was published back in August by Jennifer Burson. She's the founder at Generation PR and Profitable PR Pros. And she, at that time, did a look ahead to 2023, or a little earlier than we were getting to it.
Yes.
But there were so many really cool, smart, just on-the-ball points, I think, that, we see coming, we've seen with our clients that are going to happen. First, she highlighted simplified brand messaging is what's going to resonate more. And that's so true. I mean, attention spans are so short.
Yes.
But the line in there I love was, but don't skimp on value.
Exactly.
Because people don't want to waste their time.
Right. And I feel like that completely captures the Association 100, because if we had 1,000 words to write an article, you could fill that up, but we have 100. So we have to be very specific. You have to get to the meat of it. And I know that when I first started writing for some of these articles, it takes some time.
It's hard
to really
it's
boil
easier
it
to
down.
write a longer article.
Absolutely. I mean, getting 100 words together means 100 of the best words and what you want to get to convey. And I think that she sums that up, and I feel like the Association 100 sums that up too.
Yeah. And I think one of the toughest parts about writing for me has been that if you come up with another idea, you try and shift something, you're rewriting the whole article.
You are.
It doesn't work. You can't add something in and then just take away a word or two. Start over.
And I think it makes you a better, in our case, it makes me a better writer because you are so concise.
Yes.
Which is great.
Yeah.
I loved the other thing that she had mentioned, which I have to say I had not even really thought about, which was artificial intelligence technology would be entering, I mean, not just some people's world, but everybody's world, and that it would work with your calendar and proof your pitches and monitor your audience sentiment. And I just really hadn't thought about that.
It's funny. Another podcast I love is Build a Better Agency, and they've had a couple guests on that have talked about AI, especially in the PR world. Wow,
Amazing.
Things have changed.
Yes.
And there's some really cool stuff coming down the pipeline.
Which is I'm so excited about that. I just feel like that is not something that initially was on my radar in terms of, sort of regular people using it or using it in your everyday life. So I'm very excited about that.
Yeah, I think the use cases, once you actually hear them, make so much more sense. And you might not even think of it as AI.
Yes.
Initially.
Yes.
But there's a lot. And I think some people are afraid that, it's going to replace my job. Or
yes.
It's gonna start. That's not the case. No. It's going to supplement. It might even create more jobs.
Yes.
Because there might be other things around. So I think it's something to be excited about. And
I'm really definitely excited and see what comes of it. It'll be just really exciting.
Yeah. She hit on another idea about pitching that we've been seeing firsthand in terms of how successful pitching is working. And the line she had was pitch exclusives, not stories under embargo. No one cares about embargoes. That they're all like, just give us news that is important for our audience. And exclusives are great because then they're the first and only, and that's what matters for them. So if you have a story, I mean, we talked earlier about pitching. We had Suzanne Strugansky from Industry Dive on, and it was that you can't pitch something that's not newsworthy and not a story. So that's a given. We know that. But the ability to give someone that first take at it, that matters.
Just allow them. And it does really allow you to work closely with the journalist and have them, dig deeper into what you want, sort of the message you do want to convey, and work with the journalist to make sure that their message is getting out. And I just feel like it is a better way, but that has been certainly a shift for me too, because I grew up with the whole embargo. I mean, that was your thing. And to fully see this switch is kind of interesting. And I think at the same time, really exciting for PR people, because it's back to targeting. Who do you want? And who do you want to tell the story? And again, making your pitch very specific and concise. So I think this all does really go together.
Yeah, definitely.
I loved the other thing that she had said too, which was about, the flexibility. She talked about flexibility being more important than ever. And while this somewhat scared me, her quote was, "You need to be able to be ready to pivot and completely overhaul your strategy at a moment's notice." And yes, I want to embrace that, but I'm also super afraid of that. But I do think that COVID,
it taught us that.
Yes.
Yeah. And there's while we create roadmaps, there's no, here's our year-long plan and we're going to stick to it. That just doesn't exist anymore.
It doesn't.
I still am so over the word pivot, but it is right. But I just feel like, oh my gosh, if I hear that one more time since COVID.
Because it is COVID. I mean, you just think of the word pivot and it's synonymous with COVID. But I thought it was helpful that she mentioned it, that don't be wedded to this year-long plan, because that does not exist.
No.
It's not going to exist. Or if it does exist, you're going to be left behind.
Yeah. Yeah. The last one I want to call out that she talked about was something that is very evident for us, especially in our clients, is that in-person is back in terms of events. I mean, there's definitely a hybrid world. There's no doubt in-person has changed. And I think that's great. It's made it more accessible for people. There's opportunities for people that couldn't get to events.
Yes.
But in-person is...
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Thank God. I mean, we are doing this podcast together.
I know.
And we haven't always done that, not on Zoom. So
it's
it's great. And I do think that, but I love we do have the flexibility, but I love that the in-person events are back.
I know.
I really do.
I got to go out, visit with a client a couple weeks ago. It was
so
just
great.
Amazing to be there, to get to see our client, meet their board members. Like, what a difference when you have that time with people in person to make the work more efficient later on when we're not in person.
And we went to the Washington Women's in PR event, which was super fun.
Awesome
and I feel like everyone there was just talking about how great it was to be sitting at a luncheon again.
With people. And next week we have our ONU team retreat, which is going to be amazing because our team is great. All over the country and the world.
Yes, which is going to be great. And I do think that, to quote, our old days at our GBTA association, nothing really replaces in-person, people need to meet each other.
Yeah.
And I think this is going to be great. I'm so looking forward to next week.
Yeah, it's going to be a blast.
Yes.
All right. Well, thanks to everyone for tuning in and listening all year long. And we'll be back in 2023. So enjoy your holidays and we'll see you soon.
Yeah, absolutely. Happy holidays.